The looming aftermath. 6 unsettling scenarios. Following an economic crash, the global economy, a vast and intricate web of interconnected systems, often appears robust until its underlying vulnerabilities are exposed. In recent years, discussions about economic fragility, exacerbated by mounting national debts, persistent inflation, geopolitical tensions, and social inequalities, have moved from academic circles to mainstream concern. While economists debate the timing and nature of any potential downturn, a more chilling question lingers. What would truly follow a severe economic collapse? Drawing parallels from historical precedents and current trends, a future crisis could unfold in ways that fundamentally alter daily life, testing the resilience of societies and governments. Building upon the framework of potential outcomes, here are 6 unsettling scenarios that some analysts suggest could become stark realities in the aftermath of a major economic crash, reshaped by today's complex global environment. Escalating. Travel restrictions and intensified surveillance. In the immediate aftermath of a significant economic collapse, the free flow of people, both domestically and internationally, could face severe impediments. Initially, this might manifest as stringent controls on international travel, potentially involving the suspension or invalidation of passports and tightening border security. The rationale would likely extend beyond economic contagion to include national security concerns, preventing capital flight, and controlling mass migrations. However, the ripple effects could extend inward. In a climate of heightened social unrest and resource scarcity, domestic travel might also come under scrutiny. We could see the re-establishment of internal checkpoints on highways or at critical infrastructure nodes, ostensibly for security or health reasons. The technological advancements in surveillance, digital identities, and contact tracing, refined during recent global health crises, could provide governments with unprecedented tools to monitor and restrict civilian movement, transforming public spaces into zones of controlled passage. The specter of wealth confiscation. When faced with national insolvency and an inability to service soaring debts, desperate governments might turn to extreme measures to stabilize their finances. The confiscation of wealth, once an unthinkable notion in stable economies, could become a chilling reality. This might begin with bank accounts, mirroring bail-in mechanisms seen in previous financial crises, where depositors' funds are converted into equity to save failing institutions. Beyond bank balances, the scope could expand. Governments might impose punitive wealth taxes, forced investments in national bonds, or even direct appropriation of assets like precious metals, real estate, or other substantial holdings under the guise of national emergency or economic recovery. The increasing prevalence of digital currencies and centralized transaction records could provide the state with an unprecedented level of oversight and control over citizens' financial lives, making such confiscations logistically simpler than ever before. Widespread food shortages and supply chain fractures. A global economic collapse would inevitably trigger profound disruptions in the delicate balance of food production and distribution. The intricate global supply chains, already strained by recent pandemics and geopolitical conflicts, would buckle under the weight of currency devaluations, collapsed trade agreements, and soaring energy costs that impact every stage from farm to table. Small profit margins in the food industry, exacerbated by hyperinflation, could lead to widespread business failures among farmers, transporters, and retailers. The result would be not just increased food prices, but outright scarcity. Food nationalism, where nations prioritize domestic supply at the expense of exports, would intensify shortages in import-dependent regions. Climate change impacts on agriculture could compound these issues, leading to widespread hunger, malnutrition, and a drastic shift in dietary patterns as access to diverse foodstuffs diminishes. The rise of squatters' rebellions and property chaos. A severe economic downturn would likely precipitate a wave of foreclosures and evictions, pushing vast swathes of the population into homelessness. As unemployment skyrockets and savings evaporate, Individuals and families unable to meet mortgage or rent payments would face displacement on an unprecedented scale. This desperate situation could ignite squatters' rebellions, large-scale, unauthorized occupations of vacant homes, commercial properties, or unused land. Such movements, fueled by necessity and a growing resentment against financial institutions or wealthy property owners, would challenge established property rights and legal frameworks. Local authorities, overwhelmed by the scale of the problem and potentially lacking resources, might struggle to enforce existing laws, leading to a chaotic redistribution of property and a fundamental rethinking of urban and rural land use. Outbreaks of civil unrest and urban riots' economic desperation is a potent catalyst for social unrest. In the aftermath of a collapse, mass unemployment, widespread hunger, housing instability, and a pervasive sense of injustice would create a fertile ground for widespread civil unrest and riots. These outbursts could be spontaneous, fueled by immediate grievances over scarcity or perceived government inaction. Alternatively, they could be organized, perhaps by disillusioned groups, or even manipulated by opportunistic factions seeking to destabilize existing power structures. The breakdown of essential services, coupled with heightened political polarization and a drastic erosion of public trust in institutions, could transform isolated protests into sustained urban riots. These disturbances would strain law enforcement capabilities, disrupt remaining commerce, and deepen societal divisions, making any attempt at recovery significantly more challenging. The imposition of martial law and enhanced state control in the face of widespread societal breakdown, civil unrest, and the collapse of traditional governance, governments might resort to the ultimate measure, the imposition of martial law. Under such a scenario, civilian rule would be temporarily, or indefinitely, suspended, with military forces assuming policing powers and enforcing order. Emergency powers, often pre-existing in national legislation, would be activated to justify drastic measures. This could lead to the suspension of civil liberties, including freedom of movement, assembly, and speech. Indefinite detention without trial, widespread surveillance, and strict curfews would become commonplace. The state's primary focus would shift from upholding individual rights to maintaining control and restoring order, even at the cost of democratic principles. While presented as a temporary measure to stabilize the nation, such a drastic consolidation of power could fundamentally alter the relationship between the state and its citizens, potentially ushering in a prolonged era of heightened authoritarianism. Summary and recommendations. This article has explored 6 sobering scenarios that could plausibly follow a major economic collapse: escalating travel restrictions, wealth confiscation, widespread food shortages, the rise of squatters' rebellions, outbreaks of civil unrest, and the imposition of martial law. These possibilities are not mere speculation, but are rooted in historical patterns, economic vulnerabilities, and the increasing sophistication of state control mechanisms in a volatile global environment. They paint a picture of a future where societal norms and individual freedoms could be severely challenged by overwhelming systemic pressures. While the timing and severity of any future economic crisis remain uncertain, understanding these potential aftershocks is crucial for individuals, communities, and policymakers alike. To navigate such potential challenges, consider these recommendations. Cultivate critical awareness. Stay informed from diverse, credible sources, and critically evaluate information, especially during times of crisis. Understand the underlying economic and geopolitical forces at play. Enhance personal and community resilience. Focus on reducing personal debt and building diverse skill sets. Strengthen local community networks and support systems, as these often serve as crucial buffers against systemic shocks. Promote sound governance. Advocate for policies that prioritize fiscal responsibility, diversify critical supply chains, and address social inequalities. Strong, transparent governance is key to preventing the conditions that could lead to such extreme scenarios. Embrace adaptability. The future may require significant adjustments. Cultivating an adaptive mindset and flexibility in planning can Help individuals and communities respond more effectively to rapid changes. Value civil liberties. Remain vigilant in protecting fundamental rights and freedoms, as these are often the first casualties in times of perceived national emergency. Ultimately, the future is not predetermined. By understanding potential risks and proactively building resilience at all levels, societies can better prepare for and potentially mitigate the most severe consequences of an economic downturn, striving for a more stable and just future.